Good morning, Year 4. Today we're going to start a whole new unit of work and it's going to be all about fractions. So today we're going to start off talking about unit and non-unit fractions. So what I'd like to do is just pause the video and write today's date and learning objective, please, which is to recognise unit and non-unit fractions. To get our brains thinking about fractions, tell me 5 things that you already know about fractions. I always think of a fraction as part of something. So you might want to think of it as like a chocolate bar, and each part that is broken up into is a fraction of the whole amount. Or a pizza, how many slices it's got out of it. Tell me 5 things that you already know about fractions. Pause the video and write them down. So when we see a fraction, we have one number and then a line, and then underneath we have another number. So a fraction tells us how much of a whole thing something is split into. The bottom part of the fraction is called the denominator. Repeat that word, denominator. So that tells us out of a chocolate bar or a pizza, how many pieces it's split into. So if you look at this fraction, 1/3, a whole pizza would be split into 3 pieces. And the numerator, the top number of a fraction, tells us how many parts of that pizza we would have. So if you think of a pizza that's split into 3 pieces, if I eat 1/3 of that, it means I've eaten 1 out of 3 of those pieces. I've eaten 1 piece out of the 3. So if we have a look at these fractions down here, each one of these represents a whole. Could be chocolate bar, could be apple, could be pizza, whatever you like, okay? So each one of these is a whole one. The bottom number of our fraction, our denominator, tells us how many equal pieces each thing has been broken up into. And the top number of our fraction, the numerator, will tell us how many pieces are shaded or have been eaten. So if we look at the first one, it says 1/2. That means a whole thing split into 2 pieces, and one of those pieces is shaded. So 1/2 would match up with this fraction here. I wonder if you can match the fractions to the models that represent them. Pause the video and have a go now. So I wonder if you got the answers right. If you look at the first model, the first one on the left, the fraction that it's joined to is 1/3. So again, that shows us a whole one split into 3 pieces. That's the denominator of our fraction. And one of those pieces is shaded in. Now, if we have a fraction with a number 1 on the top of it, we call that a unit fraction. Repeat that, unit fraction. So if the numerator is 1, it's a unit fraction. Now, I've got some diagrams here, or some models, and each one of those shows a different fraction. Now, remember, the denominator tells us how many pieces, how many equal pieces the shape has been broken up into. And the numerator, the top number of the fraction, tells us how many pieces have been shaded. So I wonder if you can draw models to show, if you can write fractions to go with the models. The first one's been done for you. You can see the shape at the bottom. It's split into 6 equal pieces, and that's really important, they're equal size, and one of those pieces has been shaded. See if you can write fractions to go with the other three models, and we'll go through it together in a moment. So just pause the video while you have a go at that. Okay, so now you've had a little go, let's compare the answers. So if we have a look at this shape here, we can see that it's split up into 8 equal-sized pieces. So our denominator for the fraction is going to be 8. Imagine it as a chocolate bar. That chocolate bar has been split up into 8 equal-sized pieces. And one of those pieces has been eaten. This one here has been split up into 9 equal pieces. So we should have a 9 as our denominator, and our numerator equals 1, because one part of that has been shaded. This one here has been split up into 10 equal pieces. So our denominator is going to be 10, and our numerator, the number of squares or rectangles that have been shaded, is 1. And as you can see, all of these fractions that we've got here have got 1 as the numerator, which means that they are called unit fractions. So let's have a think about non-unit fractions. They're any fraction that hasn't got 1 as its numerator. So all the fractions that you can see on screen are non-unit fractions. What I'd like you to do in a moment is to draw models to represent these fractions, to show the information on the fraction. So if I talk you through the first one, it says 2/3. So that means one shape that's split into 3 equal pieces, and 2 of those pieces will be shaded in. Remember, our denominator tells us how many equal pieces it's been split up into, and the numerator tells us how many we shade. So pause the video and have a go, see if you can draw models to represent these fractions. And now you can compare your answer with mine. It doesn't matter whether you draw circles, whether you draw squares, as long as the pieces that you draw are equal size. So all of these fractions, they haven't got 1 on the top, on the numerator, so that means they are called non-unit fractions. Now, in your book, see if you can draw this table. So the headings will be unit fractions and non-unit fractions, and all of the fractions along the bottom, I would like you to sort into the correct place in the diagram. Pause the video and have a go at that now, please. So you can compare your answers with mine. You can see all of the fractions on the left-hand side are unit fractions because they have got 1 as their numerator. All of the fractions on the right-hand side have got a number greater than 1 as the numerator. That means they're non-unit fractions. Well done if you got those right. Now I'd like you to have a go at copying and completing these sentences, and they're all about what a unit fraction is and what a non-unit fraction is. Pause the video, write the sentences down in your best handwriting, and then see if you can fill in the gaps. Have a go at that now, please. Let's go through them together. So a unit fraction always has a numerator of 1. An example of a unit fraction is 1/3. You could have 1/4, 1/5, 1/100th, 1/1,000,000th. As long as it's got 1 as its numerator, it is a unit fraction. A non-unit fraction has a numerator that is more than 1. An example of a non-unit fraction is 2/3. You could have 4/5, 900,000ths. Have a look at these fish. You don't need to write these down, but you can pause the video where you have a little look at them in a moment. So have a look at the different colours of fish and see if you can identify what fraction is each colour of fish. And I've done the first one for you. So the orange fish, there's 4 that are orange, but in total there are 10 altogether. So the denominator for all of the fractions that you do is going to be 10, because that is the whole amount of fish. So if you're writing the fraction of yellow fish, have a think what your numerator is going to be. So now, see if you can do the fraction for the yellow fish, the blue fish, and the green fish. And can you spot any unit fractions in there? And here are the answers. And you will see that 1 out of those 10 fish is green, so the unit fraction there is 1/10. Now you're going to have a go at some fluency. You have to look at the models and you have to identify the fraction that is shown by the models. Pause the video and have a go at these now, please. Now that you've done that, you can mark your answers. There's some reasoning questions for you here. There's 3 statements there. Some of them are slightly easier than the others. So the yellow chili is the easiest one, and the red chili is the extra hot chili challenge. So have a look at the statements. First one says, this is a unit fraction. You have to say whether you agree or not, and then explain why. Have a look at all 3 reasoning questions. You might be able to do all 3 of them. Pause the video and have a go now. Now, if you pause the video, you can mark your reasoning answers. Some questions here for you to do for problem solving, and this time you're going to draw models to represent the following fractions. Some of them are unit fractions with 1 as a numerator, some of them are non-unit fractions, so they've got a numerator that's greater than 1. When you draw your models, make sure that you draw all of the parts the correct size. So if we have a look at on the extra hot chili challenge, question A says 1/7. So you would have to have a shape that's split up into 7 equal sized pieces. Pause the video and have a go at this now, please. And here are the answers for the problem solving. It doesn't matter if you've drawn rectangles or squares, as long as the sizes are equal and you've got the correct amount coloured in. So, for an additional challenge today, see if you can represent 1/10 in as many different ways as you can. You might draw a pizza split into 10 pieces, with one of those pieces missing. You might draw some chocolate bars. You might draw some apples in a tree. Have a go. See how many different and creative ways you can think of to represent 1/10. Well done for some fantastic learning today. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.